And we wait. Welcome into the PHNX Cardinals Podcast, presented to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook. Be sure to like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcast. Johnny Venerable, my co-host Bo Brock, live at the PHNX headquarters in downtown Phoenix. We are on the continuation of Sean Payton Watch. And for this show, if you're a fan of us, thank you. Welcome, like, and subscribe. We've been on Sean Payton Watch since about late October, and it just feels like everybody else is catching up, Bo. But as we sit here Friday afternoon, I'll lie to you and tell you, you know what? I won't lie to you and tell you, I thought Cardinals would have a coach at this point. I thought we'd have a definitive answer as it relates to Sean Payton and if the Cardinals potentially need to pivot. But as of right now, Bo, no second interview or third or whatever you want to call it up with any candidate. It's all Redbird quietness here in the Valley. Eerily quiet as we sit here 48 hours, less than 48 hours from the conference championships. And this is our Super Bowl here at PHNX Cardinals. Can the Arizona Cardinals land that big fish after casting that wide net in Sean Payton? You know, it's eerily quiet because you thought outside of Ian Rappaport talking to our friend Jody Ayler at Fox Sports 910 and then Pat McAfee saying things went well yesterday, there just hasn't been any kind of follow-up news as far as the meeting between Sean Payton and the Arizona Cardinals all day Thursday, or it felt like all day Thursday, 7 to 8 hours that they spent at the team facility. And then we see via Fox 10 and Cam Cox of 12 News them leave together in Sean and Michael Bidwill's luxury electric car. So, you know, what do we know? What's taking so long? I think that's really what we're going to try to break down today. Well, and I think you and I, Bo and I talked off air earlier today, and I voiced my displeasure about one thing in particular. And we love our peeps at DMVR, but the Broncos are being treated with kid gloves throughout the course of this process. And you've got that tremendous video from Cam Cox and company of Michael Bidwill and Sean Payton getting into his vehicle. And that has not been picked up by one flippin' national outlet. I'm going to pull the photo we have up here. There it is. And you can find the video at Cam Cox on Twitter. Like, why wasn't this circulated throughout all the national outlets today? Unless there's a conspiracy, Bo, and an agenda, or this is being telegraphed by Sean Payton and his people, it's insane that this had no traction yesterday, because this sure as hell didn't happen with Dave Tepper and the folks out in Carolina. This sure as hell didn't happen with the Walmart people that supposedly didn't hit it off with Sean Payton. And now we've got Sean Payton and the owner getting into Michael Bidwill's car, presumably to drive to the airport, but maybe not, because Bowen, you and I talked about, wouldn't Sean Payton just have him take the helicopter to the airport? Wouldn't Sean Payton go with Michael Bidwill to maybe Michael's private jet? Something tells me there's more to this, but I am frustrated, Bo, by the lack of coverage as it relates outside of this show, who's been on this for, I don't know, probably about 8 to 12 motherfucking weeks, that Sean Payton with the Arizona Cardinals, no one wants to take it seriously. Right. No, it's not, but it's serious conversation. It's casual conversation. They looked comfortable with each other, Sean Payton and Michael Bidwill. And Payton kind of alluded during this whole process before the season even ended that he had a relationship with the Cardinals organization back to when he was a teenager and he was a ball boy back when the organization was owned by Michael Bidwill's father. So there is a relationship there, and they just look comfortable. And yeah, if when they ended things yesterday, it was pretty much heating up rush hour traffic at that point. So you're just going to go sit with Sean Payton in traffic trying to get him to Sky Harbor or wherever his private jet's going to take off from. It just, I know that we're just grasping here. We're absolutely grasping, but we're not, because it legitimately bothers me. I know it does. And I think it's going to help as far as trying to figure out why the hell these cowards haven't announced a partnership of some sort between Sean Payton and the Arizona Cardinals. But I mean, maybe the major media outlets aren't running with it because that picture was snapped behind the bumper of a 2007 Honda Accord. Maybe that's concerning. Maybe it looks a little too stalkerish for their taste and their national audience. Listen, we're not here to toot our own horns, but Bo has been quote tweeted by Rap Sheet, as have I. We've both been quote tweeted by Tom Pelissaro, other people. Like, like, we didn't put this video out, but good media people were out there, God bless, camping out from the Cards facility and had that video.
They were eating beans out of a can, staking out whenever they saw any movement come out of the Cards facility yesterday.
It was just tremendous coverage. And it was a gift from the football gods that was right before our show yesterday, and no one picked it up, and no one's even talking about it. Now, we do have some positive news if we're trying to piece this together, and that's what we love to do on PHNX Cardinals, that you mentioned on Jody's show on 910. Rap Sheet said it was positive. McAfee, he said the Cardinals are a place where Sean Payton could land. Like, he didn't think he had an option. The Cardinals seem to be a renewed option. But let's take a pause on that, and let's talk about the team that they could have some competition with, or maybe not. The Denver Broncos.
You want to bury the Broncos?
I do. I'm ready. Let's go.
You want to eulogize the Broncos and Sean Payton?
I'm so ready. The darlings of the national media, the Denver Broncos, John Elway and his horse teeth are not walking through that door. Let's go. A friend of the program, Benjamin Albright, posting this today, and this is twofold. So number one, I listened to Andrew, I think his name's Juge, podcast-esque thing. What is the thing where you just have audio on Twitter? What's that called? The Space last night. Yeah. And he gave some good insight on Sean Payton. I haven't either. We're video guys here. So Andrew mentioned that Sean Payton does not want to go back to Fox. This guy's a podcaster, reporter for the Saints. Says Sean does not want to go back to Fox. Andrew also wants the picks for New Orleans, and I get that. But Benjamin Albright tweeting this for our audio listeners, after talking with people in the know again, Broncos like DeMeco Ryans have had productive conversations, but if he goes to Houston, I don't think Denver is going to wait around, would move aggressively at other candidates they've kept in touch with during that time. So we'll talk about the DeMeco Ryans factor here in a second, but then Andrew says, maybe Sean Payton. Benjamin Albright, emphatically, no. Benjamin Albright, friend of this program, has been emphatic that the Denver Broncos are not going to pursue Sean Payton, that is dead, that they did not have a great meeting in the sense that the ownership power struggle operation there. And Bo, you broke it down beautifully when we talked about it earlier, when you compare to the singular entity of Michael Bidwill and then everything else that's going on in Denver.
Yeah, the power hierarchy, right? How many people do you have to report to? How many people, when you don't put a cover letter on your TPS reports, are you going to hear from if you're Sean Payton working for the Denver Broncos? When you look at the Arizona Cardinals organization, and the previous, I guess, brain trust, for lack of a better term, was Michael Bidwill, Steve Keim, Cliff Kingsbury. And then, there was some scouts and player personnel types in the front office, Adrian Wilson, Quentin Harris, McDonough, people who've been around this place for the facility for a long time, but pretty much you don't report to anybody else or have any legitimate conversations outside of those three people. When what we've been hearing from this stable organization in Denver that was purchased by, the Walmart people, you've got, if the Waltons basically in their ownership group that own it, right? And then you've got this ownership group that also includes Condoleezza Rice. And then you got the team president in Penner, who also has Stanford ties. That's why the connecting of the dots with David Shaw remains with the Denver Broncos. Then you've got George Payton. Somewhere you've got your horse teeth Elway, I'm sure, still involved in some way. And then you've got, then you'll bring in your head coach, right? And it's interesting to me because when we looked at this, and producer Sean, who's working with us today, we had when Michael Bidwill fired Cliff Kingsbury and had his press conference, he was asked about how he wants to divvy up the responsibility between player personnel, scouting players, and how you're going to attract free agents and who's going to make those decisions. This is what Michael Bidwill said as far as it's going to be a collaboration.
I think when you look at all the models out there, there's a lot to get around coaching, and there's a lot around personnel, and there's always that favorite question of who's in control of the roster. It's when you look at it, pretty much every team around the league, except for just a few exceptions, there's a real partnership between the general manager and the head coach, and I think that's what we're looking for, rather than trying to dictate something up front. Dan Bickley's agreed to pick up the financial consequences. So, he laughed the hardest, Cam. I didn't mean to embarrass you. I will embarrass Dan. There you go.
Sorry, I left in the Bickley part as far as he's picking up the tab. I think that was Dan. in regards to Cliff Kingsbury. Yeah, Bickley and Morano, great show. If you're an Arizona sports fan, absolutely. It's a good way to start your day. But it's a collaboration, right? And I don't think Sean Payton's coming in to be this dictator and say, as I say goes, when I say jump, you say how high. This is who we're picking third overall, and damn well better pick that guy third overall, or there are going to be consequences. I think that Sean Payton, as he worked with Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland, famously in New Orleans, and they were successful for 16 seasons, he's looking probably for something similar. He probably doesn't want to take on more responsibility. Sure, he wants his say in it, but that sounds like something that would be appealing. And when you talk about too many cooks in the kitchen, it certainly sounds like that's what's going on with Denver. That's what Mark Maskey from the Washington Post was outlining, something potentially that Sean Payton was not excited about. But, it's interesting because that report was debunked by
Here we
Sean
have it
Payton.
right here, Bo.
Yeah, he went JJ Watt. He sourced himself in this one. Zero truth to this. And you got to take that, obviously that's legit. And Ian Rappaport maintains that the Broncos are still in this conversation. And a lot of people, as far as insiders are concerned.
It's
What's
not
that?
legit. This came from Sean Payton. Mark
Sean
Maskey.
Sean Payton also told Peter King he really enjoyed his conversation with Broncos ownership. Here's what I'll tell you where I stand, because you've made it pretty clear that you believe that talks, negotiations, chances of Sean Payton going to the Denver Broncos are dead. I'm not willing to just completely forego that. I don't think it's completely over with them in Denver. I mean, and here's why, Johnny. I think that the Denver Broncos, because the candidate pool has been all but drained for the most part, outside of DeMeco Ryans. They liked reportedly Dan Quinn. They like Jim Harbaugh, and those guys are not in the mix any longer. They have deep pockets, and they are desperate. That's dangerous. That will always be dangerous to me.
You're helping the leverage that the Payton
I don't care what
Saints
I say.
saga doesn't have right now.
They
have no leverage. There are no options but the Arizona Cardinals. And going back to Fox, if you're the Saints and you're counting your draft picks that aren't there, you got to make a deal with somebody. And I'm sorry, the Denver Broncos, as awful as they played this, coaching free agency saga, I think they've done too much irreparable damage with Sean Payton and company, because that report came directly from Sean Payton. I'm going to choose to believe that he leaked that out to get that out there. And then
what would he have to gain from it? What would he have to gain from it besides just completely just torpedoing any chance with Denver and creating any leverage?
To maybe embarrass the people in Denver a little bit. Like, they don't have their act buttoned up.
But why? He told Peter King he liked the people in Denver.
Yeah, because there's reports now that Sean wants too much control. It's a glamour fest. It's all about Sean. He wants the draft picks. That being New Orleans wants the draft picks. I don't think he was ever the Broncos' top candidate. Now, you're right. They're screwed now. They're in a lot of trouble, because if you think about next week, can they get in front of DeMeco Ryans before Houston? That remains to be seen. But they don't have a fallback option. They might have to circle the wagon again and start interviewing some of these folks that are going to be made available, like a Shane Steichen or Jonathan Gannon or somebody like that. By the way, Jonathan Gannon met with the Broncos last year. But how this circles back to the Arizona Cardinals is it shouldn't matter. The Cardinals got the later interview. The Broncos met with Sean Payton. What was that? Like a week ago? And it wasn't anything like what the Arizona Cardinals just had. The Broncos interview, I think, was last week. He interviewed more recently with Carolina. That was like 4 hours. I don't even know if that was in person. He was in the building for 7+ hours with every high-ranking member of the Arizona Cardinal franchise, including the owner and the GM. He had lunch with the GM, and then he leaves with Michael Bidwill. That did not happen in Denver. So I'm sorry. I'm going to go off of the report that they just didn't hit it off in Denver. And it's damage control, especially if Sean goes back to Fox and he's got to do this dog and pony show again. He wants people to know that he's accommodating maybe next year. But as far as the money goes, I'm inclined on Jody's show with Rap Sheet saying that he may not even get $20 million a year. That his salary of $25 million was, crafted by the national media, people guessing, as you mentioned, Bo, to me off air, Mike Florio and company. Like, we don't even know if that's real. We also don't know if the Saints have minimal leverage, if they're going to get what they're asking for. They're not going to get 2 1s. The Broncos don't have 2 1s to give, right? And so I just think everybody at the end of the day, needs to understand that the Cards have a big advantage here. They have leverage here because unlike the Saints and unlike Sean Payton right now, they have options. They can go and hire Brian Flores tomorrow. It'll cost them significantly less, both in salary and draft capital. Now, is that in the best move of the franchise if you can get Sean Payton? Of course not. But Sean Payton, I'm going to tell you right now, the longer he's out of football, the less of a hot commodity he becomes.
Yeah.
Right? You're away from the game. It does irreparable damage. You need to stay hungry in this industry. You're going to be 60 years old, 61 years old if you wait a year. And if you're New Orleans, you want this lingering over your franchise for the next calendar year plus, or you want to be able to move on. If you're demanding 2-1s and then you sit there with nothing, you deserve it.
Yeah.
You deserve
Guys,
it.
everybody's killing it in the chat. Let's get to a couple of these super chats. Marcus saying, just ready to find out who's running the ship as far as you got to maybe follow up on that. As far as, are you talking about Bidwill or is it Monty Austinford? Is that what your question is, Marcus?
Probably Cardinals, probably. I would say Michael Bidwill.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Michael was the one that was walking out. They were walking out together. I mean, we all saw the video yesterday. And then we got Jason Krell chiming in. Why is he not hired yet? Honestly, and I wanted to kind of get into that. And I think there's 3 reasons why he's not hired as of yet, because things like the momentum, it seemed like yesterday we reached a fever pitch. Like the Arizona Cardinals were as close as they've ever been during this entire process, you know, including like Black Monday when hope was kind of reinvigorated when they fired Cliff Kingsbury and you started dreaming about the best scenario. But realistically, seeing them walk out of that building, reading Kyle Odegaard's report of him meeting the interview panel and talking to people that you would work with on a day-to-day basis in that building, including, you know, media relations president Mark Dalton and their chief people officer, which is a real job apparently at the facility yesterday. But I think Sean Payton, in my opinion, he finalized the 4 teams that had requested to speak with him of the 5 openings. He spoke with all 4 of them. The Cardinals were the final one. And I think that it's very possible that he just wanted to kind of digest all the information that he's kind of gotten over the last 2.5 weeks as far as doing these interviews and weighing his options as far as what he wants to do. And then obviously you've got him maybe allowing a bidding war to potentially heat up, see if Denver that truly gets desperate and they want to offer him, you know, a blank check, or Houston wants to come in from out of the clouds and offer him tons of money and control. But for the most part, I mean, that's probably the least viable option. And then you've got the third option that the Cards and Payton probably spoke about a deal and they want to work together. And now it's just, this isn't just trying to hire Brian Flores or Dan Quinn or Frank Reich, who was available because he was fired by the Colts. It's not as easy as just saying, we want to hire, let's figure out how to do that. This is the one that has the most moving parts, still under contract through 2024 with the New Orleans Saints. So you've got to go through the Saints first. So you had to figure out whether or not, you know, Sean Payton wants to work with Bidwill and the Arizona Cardinals and be their next head coach. And then you reach out to the Saints and you figure out, all right, let's talk compensation. And hearing what the reports are and what the Saints want, mid to late first round pick, more than that, then you got a long way to go as far as where compensation in the middle is going to meet for both of those clubs. So ironing out a deal is probably one of the more likely scenarios as far as why we're waiting here 24 hours later on Sean Payton and hearing any news on good or bad and whether he wants to be the Arizona Cardinals head coach.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I don't think we're going to get a tweet or a report that says they've entered negotiations. It's going to be they've come to an agreement. The deal is done. They're shipping X picks to the New Orleans Saints, and Sean Payton's the new head coach, because you might lose leverage. You try to negotiate in front of the mass media, in front of the masses, if you will. You could lose leverage if you're either party. I want to get to this comment here. Titter time in the chat saying John Gambadaro does a great job. 910 Arizona Sports supposedly said Payton is in Dallas with Kyler. Well, I think we're going to talk about Kyler Murray later. Kyler is doing his rehab in Dallas, and Sean Payton, I think, lives in Dallas. And there's a picture floating around of Sean Payton having some drinks and eating some food with some people. We haven't gotten that source, if that's from today or last week or whenever. So we're not going to run with that. But I'll see, you know, if anything comes to that, I'm sure we'll know momentarily.
So wait, Gambo of Arizona Sports 98.7 said that Sean Payton is meeting with Kyler in Dallas.
Titter time in the chat. Just can't say titter time enough. Supposedly said Payton is in Dallas with Kyler. Bo, you're blocked by Gamble on Twitter. I will DM Gamble right now.
Would you please? Yeah.
Yes.
And
then I'll ask him to unblock
Cotton
Cobra.
Candy Soft Block Patrol out there.
Stop. We like Gambo.
He blocked me. You want me to just, Gambo, great guy. Just, I never said a word about the guy.
That's BJ, pre-JV, before Johnny V. And now after Johnny
you're
V.
You're the liaison. You're gonna get things back on track here.
Tom Lyons said no, he said he was in Dallas. Gamble said possibly. So okay.
We got our first glimpse of Kyler today, right? His
do you want to get that picture up? Do you want to talk about that?
Let's take a look at it. It's this is what I was looking like all day waiting for Sean Payton news. This is me looking at my Twitter timeline.
Can we not just get Kyler to do like a thumbs up for the sake of Sean Payton? Like, hey, Sean, rehab's going great. I'm going to be ready to play football at some point in 2023. This is a sad picture. This makes me sad. We're trying to recruit Sean Payton. We got this sad picture floating around. Doesn't this make you like?
We are grasping for information, and we're just speculating. And you're concerned about Kyler's demeanor in this.
Everything isn't something, but something.
I'm surprised there's aren't people like, this is what he looks like on the sidelines. This is why he's not a good leader. He's rehabbing his knee. He's got 8 to 12, maybe 16 months of rehab headed his way on his first.
Give me a thumbs up, Kyler. Get that to Sean.
You want a hokey, disingenuous, just thumbs up. Everything's all good, guys.
I want a Russell Wilson. Yeah, I want to.
He's staring down a reality, potentially a nightmare reality, where Vance Joseph is his head coach.
Stop. I don't want to talk about that. All right, I want to talk about the coaching candidates and where everything stands. But first, I want to tell everybody, DraftKings Sportsbook right now, Sean Payton, not sure if you guys have seen this or not. The movement is insane on DraftKings right now. So yesterday it was a plus 1,000. Then it jumped up to plus 300. Then it jumped up, get this, to plus 150. He'd be the Cardinals' next head coach. A little bit of movement, plus 140, friends. Brian Flores still the overwhelming favorite. Can't even get plus money on it anymore. But you can get plus money right now on DraftKings, betting on the conference championship round ahead of the NFL playoffs this weekend. All you got to do, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that promo code PHNX. New customers can bet a mere $5 on the conference championships. Get $200 in free bets instantly. You don't even have to win your bet, spread, money line, whatever you want to do. 5 bones get you $200 for free to bet on DraftKings. New customers only at the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Promo code, you guessed it, PHNX. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. My DraftKings pick of the week. What else would it be? Fly, Eagles, fly. Beat the fraudulent 49ers and Brock Purdy. Eagles, moneyline Eagles, minus 2.5, whatever you want. Go Jalen Hurts. Get that dub so we can be done with San Francisco.
And conference championship Sunday, no better place to go take in those 2 games than Four Peaks Brewery down in Tempe, 8th Street in Tempe, the OG location. They've got great beers on tap. They've got their bars set up, great TVs there, plus all the swag you can buy from Four Peaks. Or you can go kind of sit down in their dining room area. You got the breweries. You got all the beer being made around you. It's a great atmosphere with all the TVs where you can catch all the action you want for the NFL, NBA, NHL. You're going to have baseball kind of pitchers and catchers report the next couple weeks. It's exciting, and Four Peaks is going to be your headquarters for that. At least it should be. If you want to go have a kilt lifter, maybe a Hop Knot IPA, the Joy Bus Wow Wheat Hazy IPA, Sun Brew, going back to one of their original beers. You can't go wrong at Four Peaks. Can't go wrong with their menu. They got great appetizers. They got great entrees. You can do the chicken rolls. You can do the garlic cheese beer bread. You can get that Italian beef beer bread as well. It's fantastic. Or if you like pizzas, they got all sorts of flatbreads that you can dabble with at Four Peaks. Check it out. Of course, you want to enjoy the beer. You got to be 21 years or older. Check out Four Peaks online as well. Follow them on social media, Twitter, Instagram, fourpeaks.com. And also check them out, as I said, 8th Street in Tempe. We love being partnered with Four Peaks. It's part of the history of the great state of Arizona. It's their best brewery, bar none. Four Peaks. Go check them out if you haven't.
So we're going to laugh at some of these other head coaching searches here in a second, but I want to point out, so NFL.com, Ian Rappaport said that the Cardinals, quote, are either going to work to hire Sean Payton or they're going to pivot with a second interview with their candidates. As of right now, the recording of the show live with 430 people. God bless you all. Like the show, subscribe. They have not requested to talk to anybody else. So we are on Sean Payton watch until we get a notice that they're bringing back Brian Flores. They want to talk to him again. If that were to happen, I would say that the Sean Payton hype train take a massive halt. However, the other teams with the three remaining vacancies, are busy trying to fill that void. Let's start first, Bo Brock, Indianapolis, which they were going to interview Dan Quinn again Saturday. That's not happening now. Dan's going back to Dallas. Colts have a second interview with Jeff Saturday on a Saturday. Mañana. They're also going to talk to Wink Martindale. There's a guy named Wink. He coordinates the Giants' defense. He's going to interview. That's what you got going on in Indy.
Yeah.
So as much as like we're stressing out over here, it could be Jeff Saturday or your high school gym teacher, Wink Martindale, as the next head coach of your franchise.
Put some respect on Wink Martindale. The Ravens cast him off. He did a great job in New York City working for Brian Daboll. Daboll, hats off to him as far as building his staff and taking advantage of the Ravens getting rid of Wink. But still, I think he just got the name because his first name made Jim Irsay giggle. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Let me get you a wink.
Jim Irsay, what's going on in Indianapolis is like a three-ring circus. I mean, Chris Ballard tomorrow, he's going to have Jim Irsay's key card deactivated so he doesn't hire Jeff Saturday on the spot. The guy went 1-7 as an interim head coach. He blew a 33-0 lead against the Minnesota Vikings on a Saturday game. It was absurd. And they want to hire the guy. They want Jeff Saturday. Like the Colts, in my opinion, remain zero threat to what the Arizona Cardinals want to do. They're not in the same conversations with the same types of coach candidates, and that's a great thing. Best of luck to you. Hopefully you hire Wink, you hire Jeff Saturday, whoever it may be. Just go be irrelevant in the AFC South. No more Peyton Manning, no more Andrew Luck to save your franchise any longer. Poor Chris Ballard, guys trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit with what he has to work with in Indianapolis. It's a mess.
It's hilarious, though. Chris Ballard, come work for this franchise. Michael Bidwill suddenly looking pretty good compared to old Jim Irsay. So that's one saga. Frank Wright's done. He's in Carolina. We're putting them aside. So then it's the Houston Texans and and the Denver Broncos. The Texans, per multiple reports, this came out this afternoon, making DeMeco Ryans their head candidate, quote, with mutual interest in him potentially becoming their next head coach. We had talked about it, Bo, earlier this week. DeMeco Ryans' wife is from Houston. They spend their off seasons in Houston, right? Everybody wanted to write them off, and rightfully so, for how they treated two back-to-back African-American head coaches, one and done. DeMeco Ryans, though, I would say is the front runner to become the next head coach of the Houston Texans. However, the Broncos still want to get in front of him. But this is per Ian Rappaport, with the Texans eyeing DeMeco Ryans and his desire to interview with them next week. So they have a spot. They're going to talk. The Broncos timeline does not align with that, despite Denver thinking highly of DeMeco Ryans. So GM George Patton and CEO Greg Penner have continued conversations, quote, with other candidates throughout the process. I am of the mindset that that's not Sean Payton. That could be Jonathan Gannon. That could be somebody else that we haven't heard of. Hell, that could even, I guess, be Jim Harbaugh. But the Broncos, to me, I mean, like, it seems like Houston, if they don't screw this up, has DeMeco kind of in their back pocket. They can play the hometown feel. Carolina's done. Indy's off. They're not doing their.
You say the Texans, right?
Yeah,
Texans. They've got that weird kind of like in. They're a dysfunctional franchise. They have no business being able to have access to the top coordinator on the market, and I don't think anybody will disagree that DeMeco Ryans is that. Yeah, and a rising star. And they've got their cousin has an in at the hottest club in town, and the only reason they have access to him is just because they know somebody that knows somebody. And they drafted him. He spent some time in that organization, but that organization outside of Washington is one of the biggest clusterfucks in the league. But if they can get him, it's the same thing. Like, they have to be kind of cautiously optimistic when they look at Denver because they're always a threat, like dollar for dollar. They're not going to be able to compete if the Denver Broncos ownership wants to just give them a blank check. I mean, they have the deepest pockets remaining.
I would demand, and we talked about it, DeMeco Ryans' 5-6-year contract. If DeMeco Ryans is going to sign with your franchise, Houston, you have to assure him some assurance that you're not going to bail again. Yeah. And I wonder if they were kind of bailing water until they could get DeMeco Ryans. To me, Denver, yes, you're right. They're the wild card. I don't think they're the wild card for Payton. I just feel like, there was a report that their owner was on a hunting trip. They paused everything this week. Nobody knows anybody with Denver. Russell Wilson is toxic, right? The locker room was like, get away from me. You do your own thing. And unlike Kyler Murray, Kyler's in his mid-20s. We don't talk about that enough. Like, you can look past a lot of stuff. And I don't think Kyler's some criminal or anything like that, but I think he's been painted out to be difficult by the national media and a lot of people who have an agenda against the Cardinals, and some of it's legitimate, some of it's not. Russell Wilson is old. He's old and broken in a division with Justin Herbert and, Patrick Mahomes, who could win his second Super Bowl this year. That's not changing. Whereas Kyler Murray could come back next November and light it up for a new offensive coordinator or a new head coach like Sean Payton. There are, like, Russell Wilson is a declining stock, but you can't sell him off because his contract's fully guaranteed.
He's what the kids call washed. He's washed.
Yeah.
He threw 16 touchdowns last year. He Carson Wentz for the bulk of the season. He hadn't played for multiple weeks. Had more touchdown passes than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is going to be 35 years old, and he has bad habits, and he doesn't have the athleticism that he once had. Kyler Murray is going to be 26 years old in August, and when Sean Payton got a hold of Drew Brees, who's an under 6-foot quarterback, just like Kyler Murray, just like Russell Wilson, he was 27 years old.
Yeah.
He doesn't, I don't think he probably views Kyler Murray as damaged goods. He probably realizes that he had a bad season, but you don't have to look very far. Russell Wilson struggled coming back from the finger injury. We saw that firsthand when the Cardinals beat up on them in Seattle last year. But Kyler Murray through the first 8 weeks of last season had 20 total touchdowns. He was
for a terribly schemed, prepared offense.
He was the MVP candidate at that point before he slides and loses that game against the Green Bay Packers at the end. And then he was playing hurt the rest of the season. And then you're right. The league caught up with what Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray were doing. They never played that game of chess, never made any counter adjustments or anything. And the blueprint was out there, and they got their ass beat for the entire 2022 season. So, I think that if you're just going quarterback for quarterback and you're Sean Payton, like, what can I work with? It's simple. That's a slam dunk. We got some super chats I think we need to get to. Yeah, we do.
Jason Krell, first $1.99. Thank you so much, Jason. If Sean Payton is hired, how would you handle the draft? Depends on how many picks you have left. If DeAndre Hopkins is around or not, I would say Sean Payton, if you look at the history with he and Mickey Loomis, they would draft defense early. They would draft pass rushers early. They would trade up for defensive players because Sean can manufacture offense. He and Drew Brees got the most out of the offense without spending a premium. They also like to do second and third round offensive linemen. I think the days of the skill player for this franchise outside of a generational talent at receiver are done. This is a team that traded up for Marcus Davenport once upon a time and gave up a future one.
Aggressively,
so I would say Will Anderson and or Jalen Carter should still be expected to be the pick, Bo.
You drafted Cam Jordan, developed him. Did you say Cam Jordan at one point?
I haven't, but I said Marcus Davenport. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, they're notorious. And Lattimore, guys on that side of the football. Sean Payton knows how you build a roster, and he worked in concert with Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland in building those successful teams for all those years. And you look back at his record where the Saints struggled for a couple of years where they were 7-9, I think, back-to-back seasons. And then they had that draft where they were able to hit, I think, on 4 or 5 guys that were instant impact makers. And
Marcus Lattimore.
Yeah. It just changed what that team was going to be about. And then they ripped off like 13 wins for the next 2 seasons, 12 wins. They were in the NFC Championship game. They were robbed by a non-call. I think it was the anniversary of the Coleman Roby non-call today. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what maybe he's just like, I don't work on this day. Respect. This is the darkest day in my history of my life.
Michael Evans, thank you so much. $2 super chat. You guys see that pick of Kyler? It looked bad. Yeah, we talked about it, Michael, in the first segment. And it's not, I mean, listen.
We can see it again. Let's see it.
Yeah,
there it
we
is.
can pull it up again. Kyler looks sad.
Downtrodden.
I mean, he waited to have surgery too. He just had surgery like 27 days ago.
The 3rd, yeah.
So yeah, or like 24 days ago. So I mean, it's been a little over 3 weeks. I'm sure it's sore. I'm sure it's painful. I argued like a buffoon that just give us a thumbs up, Kyler, so Sean knows you're good to go, brother. How about this 1999 super chat? Thank you so much. Appreciate you, my man, or my lady. Is Vance gone if we don't hire him as a head coach? Seems as if we get Sean, he'd have his own staff, 100%. And I'll go on the record right now. Cardinals aren't hiring Vance Joseph unless just a catastrophe happens and everybody else says no. And this has been the show that's been adamant about that. Vance Joseph's not gonna stay on. I think this defense needs a new voice anyway. I think players like Isaiah Simmons and company would welcome a change. Outside of a Budda Baker who works with everybody, Cardinals need fresh eyes and do not believe what they say. Believe what they do. The Cardinals, even with Quentin Harris, Bo, and Adrian Wilson in house, made neither the assistant GM. So why the hell would Monty Ossenford, as an external with no ties to Vance Joseph, opt to pair his career with Vance Joseph? There's no chance they would pick him over Brian Flores.
And everybody else, too gracious with their super chats. Thank you so much for contributing. Next time we see, meet us out at our last Wednesday at Four Peaks, or maybe our draft party, and Johnny's beers are on Johnny. No doubt about it. Thank you so much for the super chat. It gets me excited. I heard a couple, I don't know if it was Peter King or Ian Rappaport. I watched all the talk shows today because I was just craving Sean Payton news today. They talked about, him building the staff. There was the conversation about what if the Arizona Cardinals don't hire Brian Flores on the heels of Steve Wilks getting overlooked or passed up for the Carolina Panthers job because of the lawsuit that's going on. Obviously what came from Steve Wilks' representation, basically, you're going to hear from us as far as this goes, especially now that we found out Frank Reich's daughter was hired by the Carolina Panthers week before.
Not a great look.
Yeah, not the best look, Carolina. But what it would look like with Brian Flores. And Peter King brought up, Sean Payton is a guy that there's no love lost between him and the NFL. If anything, he'll do anything to get back at the NFL. And, he knows talented coaches. He knows talented players. I don't want to start throwing it out there because, obviously there's nothing that's legitimate as far as the Cardinals and Sean Payton, but it gets me giddy to think about Sean Payton and maybe Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator. Because it's not so Atlanta, who he interviewed with, just hired the DC. It was the defensive backs coach from New Orleans. He's now the Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator that just broke. He interviewed yesterday while Sean Payton was here in Arizona. He interviewed with the Minnesota Vikings. And then also he interviewed for the Browns vacant DC position as well. That would be a pretty solid hire. You've seen Vic Fangio, who hasn't officially been hired in Miami. But I think that to answer the question very long after you asked it, Vance Joseph, I just think that there are more qualified candidates and impressive candidates that could turn things around.
Flores, after being interviewed for the head coaching role, and then getting the DC job or being offered that, maybe he takes that as a slap in the face. Maybe he takes another job, but his relationship with Monty may trump that, especially, and even in the Florio article said, unless you get a Sean Payton, which he's clearly the top candidate among everybody, you got to pick Flores for other reasons. And we're not going to get into all that, but I think Flores would have enough self-awareness, oh shit, Sean Payton. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, goodness, it'd be like Christmas morning. They get Sean Payton and they get Brian Flores run their defense. It'd be unbelievable.
I apologize for getting people's hopes up. I didn't even want to say it. Yeah.
Well, and listen, I'll say something kind of, hot button here. If you get Sean Payton and they brought back Vance Joseph, it wouldn't be my favorite thing, but I'd eat it for a year or two. I would put up with it because I've seen Vance Joseph's defense when the offense is humming. Again, it's not my preference, right? But I would imagine 502 people in this chat right now. If you were guaranteed Sean Payton tomorrow, I think you could find a way. If you had to be told that Vance was coming back as DC, maybe Sean likes Vance. I don't know. And again, I'm just throwing this out here. There's no validity to it. Mm-hmm. I could eat that. But that's the only scenario because everybody else they've talked to, Bo, is on the defensive side. So Vance doesn't fit.
Right. And, to Buda Baker's point to you, when you said, you pointed out some stats that didn't
since deleted.
Yeah, that didn't paint Vance Joseph, the head coach or defensive coordinator, in the best light, that statistics just point to, just cold, hard statistics. That, you watch the tape, it's all about complementary football. And, I buy into some of what Buda is saying as far as the lack of complementary football. I think that if you look at a lot of the Arizona Cardinals games, and if you look at when they were successful in 2021, Vance's defense was playing complementary football. And there was opportunities, like, remember Minnesota? Remember when Isaiah Simmons gets the game-changing strip sack of Kirk Cousins and the offense just stalled out immediately? Like, the lack of complementary football, it was there. You can certainly find it if you're looking for it.
He outperformed Cliff Kingsbury this year, no doubt.
It wasn't tough. That's the thing.
But that doesn't mean you get to keep your job. It's like, if pass-fail kind of bullshit. Like, there can be.
And as of right now, Vance Joseph is still on the staff. He told us in a press conference before the end of the season he did ink an extension. So if they wanted to keep him, he's under contract still.
I think, again, that's going to be up to the new head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. That remains to be seen. You got two failing students, and one's at a 40%, one's at like a 59%. That doesn't mean one of them looks better by comparison. So, but I got what Buda was trying to say. I love that you standing up for his head coach. I want to talk to you, Bo, about why I believe that this announcement, if it comes, is not going to come on Fox NFL Sunday kickoff, whatever it is that they do. But first, I want to talk to everybody about Underdog Fantasy. I am pivoting off year-long fantasy. Daily fantasy is where it's at. It's here to stay. No better time to sign up with Underdog Fantasy than right now ahead of Conference Championship weekend. If you've heard about Underdog Fantasy, we love it. We talk about it because we use it. We're not one of those places where we have our partners and we don't use it at all. I'm on Underdog Fantasy daily because it is the best choice for daily fantasy. It does daily fantasy sports differently. Draft your team against up to 5 of your friends. I do head-to-head matchups, up to 3 to 5, whatever you want to do. The highest scoring squad for the night wins the cold, hard cash. But if you want to pivot on the NFL, you're just like, I just want to bet on the Cardinals when they come back next fall, hopefully with Sean Payton. That's fine. Phoenix Suns have been playing good basketball outside of the fourth quarter last night. Draft 6 NBA players with no positional limits. You want to go crazy shooting guards? Devin Booker will be back around the corner. Like, will Devin Booker hit his higher in points? Probably hit the lower in points with old DeAndre Ayton not looking good. Put him in the Ben Simmons category right now. It's so easy to get started. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, download the app, sign up with promo code, you guessed it, PHNX. Get this, Underdog Fantasy is going to match your first deposit up to $100. Put into Hundy, boom, you get out of Hundy up to $100 using that promo code PHNX. It's Underdog Fantasy, Bo. Get in on the action today.
If you're looking to maybe pimp out your house, your condo, your apartment, wherever it may be, your office, your living room, well, look no further than our friends over at More Furniture. The Arizona Cardinals are likely going to bring in an external candidate as a head coach. Lots of new coordinators, and all they need to do is look up morefurniture.com for the best sales and opportunities to pimp out your living room, your dining room, your kids' rooms with great furniture from More Furniture. They've got so many different options as well. Their white glove delivery, it's unmatched. They will deliver whatever furniture you purchase from them to your home and your office or whatever it may be, and they'll put it wherever you like it. And if you don't like where it is, they'll move it to wherever you want it after that. White glove delivery, no problems there. Visit More Furniture, Cross Streets, 44th Street, and McDowell. Use the promo code PHNX. You'll get the free delivery and installation on purchases of $999 or more. This is not available online. So when you go to morefurniture.com, you'll get to see the great selection that they have, but go to their store, make the purchase, and you'll get that free delivery thanks to More Furniture. Limited time offer that's only valid through January 31st, exclusively for our PHNX listeners and viewers, all 470 plus strong of you. If you're looking for some new furniture, if you're just looking for that couch, you're looking to upgrade from the futon, if you're looking to upgrade from the waterbed, Johnny, go to More Furniture, find yourself something nice that you can put your 10 toes upwards at night and sleep comfortably. Morefurniture.com. Check them out in store. Get that free delivery. Take advantage now.
Good question in the chat that we'll circle back to from Paul AZK1. What is the most likely reason for the silence for your opinion, Bo and Johnny? And I would say Cardinals are Listen, if they're not still meeting with Sean, and I think we would have gotten more that was still happening, that they are either reassessing what they want to do, knowing that Sean is unattainable, or hopefully more likely that they are negotiating a package with the New Orleans Saints. And they have confirmation from Sean Payton that a salary that everybody's agreed upon, that they're good with the responsibilities of Sean, how he would work with the personnel department, with Monty Ossenfort, the new GM. My hope is that they're negotiating picks or pick with the New Orleans Saints. But if that's not the case, or if that's done and because I don't think we're on the same page with this, Bo. If Sean wants to be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, he's going to be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. The Saints will have no say on that. But the Saints also want to save face. They foolishly came out and said they got to get the Parcell package at 2-1s. So it could be right now just trying to make a deal and showing respect for Sean's old team. That could be very likely what's happening. If that's not happening right now and you have a firm no from Sean Payton, it's how can we get the next pool of candidates or candidate in Brian Flores back in the building so we can put a bow on this thing. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I think it comes down to Sean Payton making the decision after kind of taking in and digesting all of the interviews he had, and most recently close to 8-hour interview on site with the Arizona Cardinals. And then once you get the green light, once he decides whether he wants to coach again, because it seems like Arizona Cardinals don't host him without the idea of that they want to hire him, right? Mm-hmm. I just don't get that sense. They went through talking to every other candidate before that. They haven't announced that they're going to do any second interviews with anybody else. They don't have anybody that's new to the docket as far as a new candidate goes. We haven't heard anything if they wanted to reschedule DeMeco Ryans, and our guy Benjamin Albright said that they were going to talk to John Gannon. We haven't heard any more reports on that, but it seems like if you're going to have that long of a conversation, introduce them to everybody in that facility, and then walk out basically almost a victory lap outside your facility, that you probably are willing to figure out what the next step in this process is. And it's either they're waiting on Sean to make a decision that he wants to coach again, and then what you have to do with the Saints to get his rights, to get him as your coach, and then you sign the name on the dotted line, and then hopefully get a press conference going. But
a lot of people are like, well, they can take their time. I mean, the Senior Bowl's next week. Bo's going to be at the Senior Bowl starting Tuesday, and I know the Cardinal scouts are going to be there. And I know that Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians left last year, and Todd Bowles took over, and Sean Payton left, March of last year. So there can be those kind of situations where you have to fill a void last minute. But those coaches were on staff through January and February. Those were internal hirees after those coaches left. I don't know how far we want to get into this. It's crazy that there's a possibility that we're going to get into February and they're still going to be doing interviews. It certainly looks that way for a team like Denver or Houston. Maybe the Colts hire Jeff Saturday on Saturday. But I mean, to me, it's like, if it's not Sean Payton, I feel like it would be a detriment to this franchise to not wrap something up here. You ought to know who your second choice is today, right now. Yeah. You do not have the luxury of going into next week trying to talk to other people for the first time.
You don't want to be Denver right now.
That shows disorganization, Bo.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I think, there was the question, should we be laughing at the Broncos right now and how this process is kind of unraveled right before everybody's eyes as far as who they wanted to get. They wanted, they liked Harbaugh. They thought Payton was a shoo-in, less over a week ago. I love who that dude jumping in the chat. Saints fan saying that the Cardinals is the spot for Payton. I don't know if he's got eyes on the 3rd overall pick, but those are the conversations that, the Arizona Cardinals are hopefully drawing the line at. You can't touch the 3rd, but maybe the 35th overall pick, and we can talk maybe some future assets, but it doesn't feel like there's any leverage, as you kind of weed through these reports and what Sean Payton really wants or doesn't want. Does he want to talk to Denver or not? So they'll get legitimate answers behind the scenes, but the Arizona Cardinals are in a position, and it doesn't seem like there's been any more of a realistic opportunity to bring on Sean Payton than right now. Right now, Sean Payton, you're at the precipice of it. figuring out if he wants to coach here, then get it done, because this is the best chance for you to take your $230.5 million investment, get it on the right track, and with that, getting your franchise on the right track, armed with really, really intelligent football guys that you just hired along the way in Monty Ossenfort and assistant general manager David Sears.
What do you say to the people, Bo, that it's not in Michael Bidwill or the Bidwill family's way to pay a coach this much?
I heard Peter King say that. I think that that's a played out old just perception of this franchise. I think that Michael Bidwill, after and we're getting close to the anniversary of Johnny Venerable unveiling or realizing that Kyler Murray had scrubbed his Instagram, but ever since like he realized what the market price was and what the value of doing business was, or the price of doing business in the NFL was, especially for having that position taken care of. And now with the importance of the head coach and realizing that, he just realizes like, look, these opportunities are few and far between. Like we've tried to develop a coach. We tried to draft and develop a quarterback. It was so damn hard and we missed so many times. We got the guy, we kept him. So now you're facing the same thing with the head coach position. You're staring down an opportunity to bring in a guy who's a culture changer, who's done it at a deadbeat organization at one point. And I think even our guy Hudat in the chat will agree with this. Like it used to be the Aints, and Sean Payton is a culture builder. He's a guy that can change the tide on some things, and he's standing right in front of you. And the way that things have played out, where there wasn't as many vacancies as there have been the last couple of seasons, it's like 7 to 9 vacancies. There's only 5, and the Arizona Cardinals were near the top of the trash heap. A lot of people view Denver as that, but it's not. They've got a big red flag in Russell Wilson, and maybe more so with their front office. The Arizona Cardinals, the way that Michael Bidwill has retooled things on the fly, it should be very appealing to any of these candidates.
I also think if you're Michael Bidwill, you look at the landscape of the coaching crop of the NFC West, and he talked about it in his press conference to you and the rest of the media that day after firing Cliff Kingsbury. We got to win the NFC West. We got to get a home game and then get hot in the playoffs. You have to have a coach that's capable of beating Kyle Shanahan, that's capable of beating Sean McVay. You think Sean McVay is going to be down and out for long? You got swept by Pete Carroll, that everybody thought was the laughingstock of the NFL this year, trading away Russ, and everybody thought that team was tanking. He was going to get fired. You got to have a coach that can compete with those guys. And I think Brian Flores can do it to some degree, and we certainly think Sean Payton can do it. We don't think Vance Joseph can do it. We've seen what these offenses in this division have done to Vance Joseph's defense. So that, to me, at the end of the day, you draft for your division, and you hire and you sign personnel for your division. Yeah, because you can get a home playoff game real quick. Ask Jacksonville, the benefactor of the AFC South, won a playoff game this year. You know, to me, it's as simple as you do not stack up in the slightest with the Hall of Fame level coaches in your division. So you better motherfucking pay to get on their level, because what you've done in the past, nickel and diamond, with Cliff Kingsbury making the minimum and whatever you did with Steve Wilkes, Bruce Arians left. I mean, it has not been good enough. You at least know with Sean Payton, you will not be an embarrassment, and you were an embarrassment in 2022.
Yeah,
it was embarrassing.
I agree with Paul at AZK1 saying, you know, if Bidwill and Ossenfort, if they land this thing, Kyler is the investment. I mean, it's their hero status, right? I mean, you got Larry Fitzgerald now saying that he's a Sean Payton guy after he kind of pivoted from Dan Quinn, but everybody that is respected around these parts, the Sean Payton hype train is reaching a fever pitch. And if you don't get him now, if you don't get your guy, and it's not, he just decided to stay at Fox and was going to kind of roll the dice on next off season, which is dangerous, Johnny. I mean, I think that people are overlooking that. I mean,
it's a huge mistake.
Just look at what happened this past season and how things played out, even into the postseason, with who he was reportedly eyeing with the Chargers and the Cowboys. You got Jerry Jones saying that he wants Mike McCarthy to be around as long as Tom Landry was. That's close to 3 decades. I mean, it's absurd. Like, he's not going anywhere, right? Everybody
No.
but Dan Quinn on that staff is basically going somewhere for the Cowboys, but those two seem entrenched. And then the Spanos family is not going to relinquish the Chargers. They're always going to be the owners, so they're not going to be able to get enough done and pay Sean Payton enough to hire him. It's absurd. So then you start to look at the teams who are going to bottom out next year. Who's that going to be? Washington? I mean, who can
Maybe
you say
if they get new ownership and threw a bunch of money at him?
No,
but I mean,
it's on the Atlantic coast. It's on the East Coast. He wants to be by LA. This is going to be his best opportunity outside of maybe the Rams. The Rams aren't that even appealing right now as far as right.
Like, what if they rebound this year and Sean's loving life again? I mean, like Sean McVay, let's be honest, he's a dramatic guy. His post room press conferences, his locker room speeches, it's for show in part. And he's jumping around and like he likes the attention. And all these guys do. Sean likes the attention right now. I mean, this guy's not going to give up a premium job right now to go be a broadcaster. They make the playoffs again next year. To me, it's just I think a lot of these NFL coaches are realizing that if they have good to great coaches, you don't let them go. Mike McCarthy, once upon a time, don't forget this. Everybody laughs at Big Mike. Cardinals wanted him to come run their football operations before they hired Steve Wilkes. They thought highly of Mike McCarthy. You're shaking your head, but that's a thing that happened. Yeah. Like, it also gives me hope that Michael Bidwill would do the same thing for Sean Payton. I keep wanting to say Sean McVay. So I'm with you, Bo. Like, the perfect job doesn't exist in the NFL because then they would have a complete and other, setup of where you're not moving off the coach. Like, Andy Reid's not going away, Sean, for you to take that job, right? These jobs that are premium, there's a reason these jobs are open because there was dysfunction and you had to fire the head coach. And in a lot of situations, you had to fire executives and GMs, like in Arizona. But in the other instances, they got to keep their job. That's not appealing for Sean Payton. Michael Bidwill, listen, I want to believe that he's going to do right by this fan base that has won one home game in 16 months. And you're gonna come out and not pay Sean Payton because we're gonna find out if Sean Payton wanted the job. And Michael said no. And that's going to be as well as he's done, ace in every test so far this offseason, that will be a horrific look for the Cardinals.
It would be brutal. It would be getting to the finish line and then just sliding right before you cross it. And nobody wants that because it would go against everything that Michael Bidwill said in his press conference and what his wants and expectations are for this franchise. It doesn't match up with his actions, what his actions would be this offseason. Nola Pelicans in the chat saying, don't forget Sean Payton. We could send him back to Fox as far as the Saints. Better not. It'd be a poor look for the franchise that Sean Payton and Drew Brees and a lot of great players did to turn things around. It'd be tough to hold him hostage. And I did some insight, looked into like what Terry Bradshaw makes at Fox and what Howie Long and those Michael Strahan. They make anywhere from like $2 to $5 million. And Sean Payton's not like he's not one of the cleanup hitters on that. He's one of the role players.
No, he's probably getting like a semi-salary stipend kind of deal.
Right.
And he's living off of his coaching money that he made in New Orleans.
Right.
That if you live in LA and Dallas or wherever, that dries up pretty quickly. So
say he makes $15+ million, you're going to hold him hostage to get the most draft capital possible.
The Saints have the same. I love the Saints fans in the chat. I appreciate your passion. You have no say in this entire. This is not up to you. Not the Saints fans, but the Saints franchise. This isn't up to them at all. You think Mickey Loomis and the ownership, that Sean Payton's the best coach in your franchise history and you're going to hold him hostage? No way. I'm sorry. Like, and Sean's working with Mickey to make sure that they get a package to inflate Sean's ego, to make sure they're not dealt for a ham sandwich. And you could argue the Cardinals made a mistake dealing Bruce Arians away for a late day 3 pick. But it's just like, you have no leverage. The Saints have leverage till 2025. He's not your coach anymore. You chose Dennis Allen. You could have said, Sean, come back. DA, be our defensive coordinator. Yeah. You didn't do that. They have moved on from Sean Payton, and Sean Payton has moved on from them. He's not just going to magically go to Fox next year and then come back in 2024 and be the Saints head coach. And I feel like there's a perception of Saints fans that kind of think that this is over. Get what you can. Move on. Like, you're holding a coach a hostage, but there's a perception with the fans. The Saints are not going to do that. No way.
If they can get, look, 35th overall is almost a first-round pick. It's basically a first round pick. You're not getting
gonna
your
get
hands on the
first-round
third
talent.
overall pick. If it's a future first, I don't think that the fan base would be upset with that. And I don't think, what's it lose? What's the, philosophy on that? It loses about a round's worth of its value.
So if you listen, I mean, the most I would give up is the 35th pick and next year's one. And I think that would be a damn good package. I know Bo wouldn't give up that much. I would be fine with that. You have to move on, New Orleans. And I think most Saints fans I talk to on Twitter and I see doing podcasts and stuff, you guys do great work. Most Saints fans would take that right now.
Yeah.
A 2024 first round pick that, could be in the teens. We don't know where that could be. And the 35th overall pick. Maybe you ship Taysom Hill to Arizona to start for 5 weeks until Kyler Murray's ready. Like, I'm just, to me,
we'll have those conversations if it happens.
The Saints are over here, and it's the Cardinals and Michael Bidwill and Sean Payton right here. And they're going to call New Orleans when it's time to make the trade happen. The Saints aren't going to come in and say, no, you guys, we don't love this. Go back to Fox for a year. That's not going to happen. And
the only reason he would want to go back to Fox, the only reason he would want to go back to Fox would be he enjoyed the quality of life and he could give or take coaching. But
then you don't want him anyway.
Yeah,
you don't want.
But I don't know why he would want to go through this entire dog and pony show. I know, obviously, Rap Sheet said today he either told Jody or Pat McAfee this, where he likes it, right? He loves the attention, right? He loves when everybody's seeking after Sean, no doubt about it. But I don't think he would put on this entire dog and pony show and not realistically, look at these options. And he probably did love where he wasn't married to the game as much as he was as a head coach. Like, he could drop anything. He worked once a week essentially, and he got to go with his kids to the Fiesta Bowl and do whatever the hell he wanted. So that's what I think he's doing. He's weighing his options as far as, do I want to give up that? Do I want to give up the quality of life to go back to being a head coach? Because it's a serious commitment. I mean, it's because teams are going to pay a huge amount of money, and they're going to have to pay some draft capital, and it's going to be expensive. I don't know if I really just don't think it's going to be the third overall pick, but I think it's going to be decent compared, relative to what we've seen. And obviously just what it's going to take, $15 to $20 million a season.
If he doesn't want to coach, or you get any inclination that he's not 100% in it, and they were with him for 7 hours yesterday, and if he wasn't locked in, and it's just we're having some sandwiches and having a good time, I mean, that intimate conversation he and Michael Bidwill likely had on the drive home or wherever they went to, like, Michael Bidwill knows if this guy wants to coach or not, and if he wants to coach his team, like, they know. Anybody who, like, we don't know, I would love to know, they know. Sean Payton knows. Michael Bidwill knows. They have to let us know. We're going to let you know as soon as we find out. Check us out. What do you got?
Yeah, I was just up. I mean, the odds right now is asked in the chat from our friend over here. Brian Flores remains the heavy favorite, -125. Sean Payton's next best favorite, +140. Vance Joseph crypto stock dropping to +500 from +350 yesterday. That's a shame. And then
Aaron Glenn +1,500. All right, so I'm going to get definitive answers if this gets done this weekend. But first, I want to tell you guys about GoPHNX.com. Become a diehard. We've got free articles 90% of the time. Our guy, PHNX Cardinals beat reporter, the guy who broke the Sean Payton interview, and the fact that he's delayed with the Denver Broncos, our guy Howard Balzer slammed the promo code for Howard, HOWARD. Fantastic work. He's got a brand new article up right now that you can check out about the Sean Payton saga and maybe some other options the Cardinals can consider. But again, die hard, you're going to get 20% off future events, free gear from the PHNX merchandise locker, hat, t-shirt, whatever you want. Every year you're signed up. The exclusive member Discord, where you guys loving us, yelling at us in the chat for this. You can come and do it 24 hours a day in the Discord. We'll come and chat it up with you guys. We love you guys so much. But check us out, GoPHNX.com, Bo.
Yeah, speaking of Howard's work, he just wrote one today. It's up on the site, GoPHNX.com. It's unlocked, and it's basically going through the history of NFL coaching hires and how, with Sean Payton being kind of the lone offensive-minded guy being available for the Cardinals, that they would be wise to hire the offensive guy. I know that it's like, no shit, sign Sean Payton as your next head coach, but Howard goes in depth on that because otherwise you're looking at all the other guys. It's Brian Flores, it's Aaron Glenn, and then it's Vance Joseph, potentially, all defensive guys. Why it'd be smart for the Arizona Cardinals to do whatever it takes to get an offensive-minded head coach hired this offseason.
I want to also remind everybody of our friends at Octane Raceway.
Woo!
So I might head down boat Octane Raceway to try to wait this out because it gets my mind
Just
off
do some
of
laps.
anything. Yeah, we've had a blast. Our guy Frank Sanders, PHNX Cardinals own, kicked all of our butts once upon a time. I did not get last. I think that was Anthony Totri, which is hilarious. But we've had a blast. They've got go-karts, racing, bowling, arcades. They've got trivia night on Friday. I think drink specials tonight from 8 to 10. Saturday and Sunday, 50% off all signature bowling before noon. Tons of stuff for kids. They've got fantastic meals, buffalo chicken quesadillas, fruit, whatever you want. And then, of course, they've got the ice cream sundae bar, assorted house-made cookies, tons of stuff. Watch the big game or games this weekend at Mavericks with a dozen 4K televisions, 20-foot jumbotrons, 5,000 square feet restaurant featuring a chef-curated menu, fantastic crafted beers and cocktails. Enjoy all that and more for the Super Bowl experience coming up at Mavericks. Book it in advance, though. It's going to book up quickly at mavericks.com/thebiggame. All right, Bo Brock, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Oh, boy.
All right. Do the Arizona Cardinals have a head coach, not in, press conference, but do they have a head coach that we know of by Monday morning?
I think that we're going to be very close by Monday.
That's not an answer. That's not an answer.
No, it is. Our GM Salt Bookman's he's saying that it's not an answer. It's very political, but I think as far as Monday goes, the NFL doesn't want the Cardinals and Sean Payton to have any news come out on their conference championship Sunday. I just don't think that they do. So it either has to happen within the next 24 hours or trending towards that on Monday. So I would say that Monday is probably going to be the money spot or within the next 24 hours. I wish I thought differently, but I don't. That's what I'm going to give you.
I would have thought if you would ask me yesterday, 100%, I thought it would be done today or tomorrow. I'm going to pivot now. I'm going to say Monday as well. I don't think we get anything this weekend. I hope I'm wrong.
No,
go ahead.
I mean, there's a good chance you're wrong, and that's why you obviously have to subscribe to PHNX_sports here on YouTube. Sure. Get that alert set up, because if anything breaks, you can bet your ass we're doing an emergency podcast on any news that breaks regarding Sean Payton, the Arizona Cardinals head coaching vacancy. Keep it locked to us here at PHNX_sports, PHNX Cardinals. We got you. We own the offseason, Johnny. That's what it's all about.
We do. I would love it. I would love to go live later tonight with an emergency pod.
We've love to abandon your family.
I've been stiff-arming my kids left and right. I've been in a dark room by myself, scrolling through Twitter, texting DMs and sources, and we have nothing. And I would look at the national media, and I would say they have nothing right now. So until that report comes out, we are on standby here, but you guys aren't on standby. You guys are first class with us. We thank all of you for making this our best month here in January of 2023 for the PHNX Cardinals podcast. We're going to wait another day or so until we find out the next head coach of this franchise. But in the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcast. He's Bo Brock. I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you Monday, if not sooner.